Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. I must have made this casserole at least a half a dozen times over the last few months. And I want to make it one last time before the hot weather sets in. It is so simple and so delicious. And this is how I do it. Now you might have noticed I called this a casserole. That's because I cook it in the oven. But this stew can also be cooked on the stove top. The results are the same, all depending on how much liquid is added. Start by slicing 4 large onions into 1 centimetre slices, then set them aside. Next up, take 6 medium-sized potatoes, peel them and slice them into 1 centimetre rounds and set them aside as well. I also stripped the leaves off some fresh thyme stems, about 1 tablespoon, or you could use 1 teaspoon of dried thyme instead. I really love the flavour of lamb neck chops for Irish stew. They are full of flavour, and if you can find them at your local butcher, they are usually quite cheap. If you can't find lamb neck chops, then you can use lamb shoulder cut into chunks. In a large heavy-based casserole dish, spread half the potatoes on the bottom and then cover them with half of the onion slices and then with all of the lamb. Sprinkle the lamb with 1 teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper and the fresh thyme. Arrange the remainder of the onions over the meat and spread the rest of the potatoes on top. Sprinkle another teaspoon of salt over the potatoes and a bit more pepper to taste. Then just a few small knobs of butter on top of the potatoes. Boil the kettle and gently pour in enough boiling water until it's just visible under the potatoes. If you prefer the stew to be less soupy, just add enough water to bring it halfway up the sides. This is what I usually do, but today I was after a soupy consistency. Cover it with a tight-fitting lid and place it in a preheated oven of 175 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours. If you are cooking this on the stove top, bring the stew to a boil, then reduce the heat to its lowest possible point and cover the casserole tightly. Simmer for about 1.5 hours, checking from time to time, adding a little more boiling water if the water seems to be cooking away. After the 2 hours are up, take the stew out of the oven. At this point, I like to add some frozen peas for that extra touch of green and sweetness. However, I forgot to film this step, but it's as simple as stirring in about 1 cup of frozen peas. Because I like my stew thicker, I heat a little butter in a pan over the stove, then add a tablespoon of corn flour and cook it for a minute or so. I put the stew on the stove, make sure it's simmering, and slowly add the butter corn flour mixture and gently cook it for another couple of minutes. This stew is so good served with some buttered bread or toast and also some extra vegetables. Today I served it with some steamed carrots, and for added freshness I sprinkled a little chopped parsley over the top. It's really yum and it tastes even better the next day. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.